Let's talk about a social issue. The social issue we're talking about today is none other than the issue of homelessness. Now, homelessness has been a big issue across the United States for many, many years, but we're seeing a dramatic increase in the past 4 or so years, especially after the pandemic. According to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, there are over 600,000 people who are living homeless in the United States alone, and the number is higher than it has been in the past 15 years, with an over 12% increase in the past 12 years. And it makes one begin to wonder what exactly is causing this dramatic rise in homelessness. But the answer to that question isn't as cut and dry as you might think. The question on many people's mind is, what is the cure to homelessness? What can be done to prevent this issue from growing larger? And what can we do to help break the cycle of homelessness? What do we need to provide to these people to break the cycle? And why is it becoming such a great issue? There are many issues plaguing the United States and causing the dramatic rise in homelessness. And the issue of homelessness is bigger than just providing the resources that these people might need to homeless people. While the items like food, blankets, and cash handouts are greatly appreciated, they're not going to solve the problem. The issue of homelessness is just that. It's the lack of a home. There are multiple reasons why the current system we have in place in America, like homeless shelters or the YMCA, is greatly flawed. In an excerpt from NPR, Talking of the Nations, we hear about an account from a former homeless person, David Pirtle, a member of the Faces of Homelessness Speakers Bureau, the national consultation for the homeless, who struggled with schizophrenia and many other issues. He retells his accounts with the dangers of homelessness firsthand. He states, the paranoia and fear of large groups of these people that comes along with schizophrenia. But part of the reason was, and I think it was more generally the case with people, you hear about a lot of terrible things about shelters, that shelters are dangerous places, full of drugs and drug dealers, that they'll steal your shoes and there's bed bugs and body lice. That was a quote from Pirtle. And we see how his experiences with these shelters and what he's heard about these shelters causes these homeless people to stay out of the shelters. Shelters can cause people to stay forced outside. As more and more people end up homeless, the dangers of these shelters rise exponentially. And the issue of overcrowding is becoming a bigger and bigger issue. If housing is the issue, there are plenty of empty houses in America. Why are people struggling to find houses? Well, companies like Blackstone are who we have to thank for that. Blackstone, along with many other commercial landlording organizations, are buying up properties faster than ever and posting them at much higher costs than they bought them for. In a statement, it was said that Blackstone is spending about $125 million a week on homes. And this is just Blackstone alone. So how does this affect homelessness in America? Well, because they're marking up homes to costs that nobody can afford. As soon as these houses are put onto the market, Blackstone comes in and these other large commercial landlording companies, and they get to the point where they buy these houses, they mark them up, and people can barely afford them. And these houses are left empty, with price tags so high that people are putting almost a third of their household income into paying rent each month, leaving no wonder why people are already down on their luck are ending up homeless. Without the money to pay these major corporations, they have nowhere to go besides onto the streets, ending up homeless. The housing crisis is one of many issues plaguing homeless people across the nation and causing the dramatic rise in homelessness. But also, according to the Illinois National Low Income Housing Coalition, the new 1 and 2 story townhomes rent is between about $519 to $1,877 a month, depending on the size and renter's income. The average price of a home sold in the past year in Geneva was about $420,000, according to Redfin. These prices are higher than ever. But what can we do about it? Well, many people are making large strides, but the solution to homelessness is going to be few and far between. Resources like pocket change, blankets of food, water, etc. are helping homeless people, but like stated earlier, they aren't going to solve the problem. It's like if you gave somebody with a bullet wound a Band-Aid. Sure, it might help cover the wound, but they still have a bullet in them. That's not going to fix the issue. But what's it going to do in the long run? As said by Rosanna Haggerty in her TED Talk, How to Solve a Social Problem, she talks about her experience with starting a program in New York where her and her team renovated an old hotel into housing for the homeless. She always struggled with a certain lady when she tried to provide resources before the housing aid. Her name was Sarah. Sarah was an 80-year-old homeless woman who slept around Times Square. Sarah was known by the NYPD as somebody who would often refuse help, refuse resources, rejecting items and help from always ending up back on the street. But once Rosanna's program took off and she built new housing, soon she saw a familiar face inside the housing. Sarah had applied. This came as a shock to Rosanna. Rosanna knew that Sarah was labeled reluctant to help, so it was odd to see her coming in for this rehabilitation. And Rosanna was wondering. Rosanna had some questions to ask her. And she asked, what exactly was causing Sarah to provide help before? Sarah stated, "You were offering me food and blankets. You never offered me a home." This is where it clicked. We think providing these resources are helping to solve homelessness. But what is the actual issue that homeless people are facing? Well, it's in the name. Homeless. Lack of home. What homeless people need are homes. It sounds dumb, but it's the truth. The solution to the problem isn't going to be providing small remedies. It's going to be cutting off the issue entirely. We need to focus on getting homeless people in homes. Then we can focus on rehabilitation. The rapid rehousing is a primary solution to ending homelessness. It is demonstrated to be effective in getting people and experience homelessness into permanent housing and keeping them there, according to the National Alliance to End Homelessness. By providing these houses, it's proven effective that homelessness will go down. So the solution to homelessness is giving people a house, you might be thinking. You also might be thinking it's impossible to give every homeless person a house, but that's not true. Did you know that there is 28 houses for every homeless person in America? It's true. And yes, it's practically impossible to give every homeless person a house. But it's a good start to reform these homeless shelters, making them safer places for all people. Then we can start reforming from there, analyzing the scene in an area and accommodating. It's not a quick solution by any means. It's not an easy one either, but it's the only way to stop homelessness, providing the resources and then getting people off of the streets. It's the inaccessibility to a home that is causing the issue. How do we solve homelessness? We make homes. We start there, give them a place to stay. We can fix other problems from there that are causing homelessness. And hopefully, the percentage of homelessness will go down and lowering and stopping the exponential growth that we have seen in the nation. To reform and remove the stigmatism of homelessness and making a permanent solution.